Hi, I'm Mike from Kaiju Battle. I'm here to review the new game from Funko Games, Godzilla Tokyo Clash. Now, I'm not a big game player, so I'll let that out first because I'm not big on games, but I'm going to try to do my best with this. So, obviously, you have the box cover, pretty much the artwork that we've seen at Toy Fair, so that's pretty cool. You got some stuff on the back. Now, the other half of the box, the back side, gives you details on the game, the figures in it, gameplay, game board, etc. A little bit of information on the side. Now, one thing I thought with the box that was kind of cool is they designed the sides to be each one of the monsters in the game, which I thought actually was kind of cool that they did that. Nice little touch on the box. Now, obviously, the biggest part of this is the game itself. Now, you get your lovely little instruction sheet. Now, it gives you the various information about the game, how to play, how to set up the board, etc. So, you got all your little information in there, goes into various different stuff pertaining to the game, how scoring goes, things like that. There's also, I thought was kind of cool again, the back end of it gives you information on each monster as far as their gameplay and certain extras they have, like Godzilla. If you do certain things, you can move 2 spaces instead of 1 or whatever. So that's kind of cool. So, and then gives you a basic on the back of the different phases of the game, or somewhat the phases of the game, basically. Okay. So we have that. Now, with the game itself, there's a few different aspects you have to do before you actually start playing. You have what's essentially the game board. There's little hexagon shaped pieces. Well, there's one like this, single one, and then there's ones like these that are 3 hexagons together. Now, they're meant to go together to form the game board. Now, depending on how many players you have, if you're doing 2 players, 3 players, 4 players, because you have to have multiple players, you set up the board a certain way. Now, this small individual one is the centerpiece of all those. So you start that out in the middle, and then you place in the other ones going around it to set up your board, if you would. Now, you then have this, which is your sort of gameplay board, if you would. Now, you start off at the beginning, and you work your way around. And as you're making moves and so forth, you move. There's a little oxygen destroyer that goes here, and he moves around. Now, you also place other items on this board, little squares in between, that control how this goes, because it could go all the way through around to the end, and you finish the game that way, or it can stop somewhere in between based on those other squares if they fill up with what they have to fill up, which is other game pieces and things that comes with. So, with that, now you also have the individual players that you score yourself. You have these cards, which are based on each of the monsters. So you have Godzilla, Megalon, Ghidorah, Mothra, and then Ghidorah. So you have the individual card for each. Now, these little numbers here at the bottom have to do with your strengths and moves and stuff as you go through. You want to, I believe, build this up higher. That's how you do better. So you start off at the 2, which is why it's red, with these little cubes that they give you. You're going to place on there, and then take them out of the bag with the little cubes in there. You place them on these little squares, and as you move and do your thing, and you're destroying stuff and what have you, you move them across or back and forth based on what you're doing. So you have that. Now, we have these things. Now, these, if you look real close, you have your oxygen destroyer. You have other items, planes, alien ships. and such. It's hard to see with reflections, but they're different items that go on the board. Now these also have to do with the board and scoring and so forth. Now I did take this out of the package, but there's other items on the back side which you can make out the shapes. So there's boats and tanks and things like that also. These all pop out of this, and that goes and placed around the board as you set it up. Now, let's see what we have. Oh, yes, we have obviously our kaiju. So you have Mothra, which comes with this little stand because she doesn't stand up otherwise. So you have her. You have Ghidorah. You have Megalon. And then you, of course, have to have Godzilla. These are cute, kind of cool little figures. Not overly, they're detailed, but they're, not paint-wise, like, accurate to the characters necessarily, although they're close. Godzilla's like a greenish tint. Ghidorah's obviously yellow and so forth, but, they're more on the detailed side. You can definitely, see he has his little spikes and everything going on. And they all look to be Showa era versions as far as those. Now, you also have little buildings that come with this. There are 4 different styles of buildings. There are multiples of each. You have a little radar dish. You have a actual building tower type of building. You have a power plant. That little things in it. See there. And you have a military bunker. Now these go around the game boards. Now I'll use the example here. This one, you have this little square on this section here. It's probably hard to see, but it's there. And there's a little icon in the corner, and it's kind of hard to see, but you kind of make it out. It's basically supposed to be the radar dish. So what happens is, when you're setting up the board, you're going to put your little radar dish on the board in that spot. Now, there's also these other little small ones, little small spots here and here. Those are the punch outs. Those go in those areas. Now, what do these all mean? When you're doing the game, you can destroy stuff and attack other monsters and things, and basically you're destroying the buildings or whatever, which is why if you look where the radar dish is supposed to go, it looks like it's burning and stuff in there. So once you destroy the radar dish, you now have that little platform of where it was, and it's burning and whatever. So it's kind of cool that they did all this, like, to make it realistic in the way it works out. Now, another aspect of this is you have events that they have as the game goes along. So you have an event stage. These are your event cards. So there's different cards. So this one's Rush Hour. This one is your Exilian Attack. You have Armored Assault, which tends to do with tanks. You have an Aerial Assault. One. You have a Naval Bombardment. And then you have Lightning Generators. Now, these also have to do with those game pieces that the punch outs that I showed before, which were these little jobbies over here. So these all have to do with that stuff. So you end up, have all these aspects of this game. It's meant to be strategy, so you gotta sit there and figure out how you're gonna do this, how you're gonna attack your opponents, etc. The main part of this whole thing, which makes it work, is the cards it comes with. So it comes with this very thick pack of cards. Now, it's not completely random because the cards are separated by kaiju. So this little section is all Ghidorahs. So there's different attacks based on what you're doing with him. So each card has a different attack or something going on. So, and they also vary on the points and things that you're using. You have energy points, or you have movement points and things like that. And these are all on there. So you have your little number at the top, number at the bottom. There's also stuff in the middle here. that's all based on what you're doing and then what points you get and how it works. Again, I'm not a big game player, so I'm not gonna lie and say, oh, this is how you do this. I don't play games, okay? But, I'm sure if you're familiar with other games, like if you do Pokemon or something like that, you would have an idea with these things, like how to work that and how to strategize in these games. This game is not a long game to play. It's meant to take a short period of time, but it's a strategy game. So you play once, okay, this person won. Okay, you play again, maybe another person will win. And you kind of go back and forth and attempt to try to do better. It's strategy. So you're gonna try one way. Oh, that didn't work. Okay, let me try a different way. Oh, that didn't work. Okay, now I try this. Oh, that worked. Okay, but then your opponents are gonna obviously try to counter you. So there's, it definitely has variations as you go along. The more familiar probably you are, it's going to be a little easier to work it once, if somebody else is not as familiar with it. But, if you're challenging somebody that's got good knowledge of it and you got good knowledge of it, you're going to end up enjoying it probably. And, it'll be a good challenge, if you would. Now, one of the things that Funko had spoke about at Toy Fair with this, when I spoke to them, is they want to expand this. They want to make it where they will introduce other kaiju into this. So, we may see another set of this coming with, say, Rodan, Mecha Godzilla, Anguirus, Rodan, and so forth. Hopefully we do, because that would just bring more into it. Now, there is little hints of them in the game. For example, with those Ghidorah cards that I showed before. Let me just find it. There is Go for the Throat. Now, if you look at the Go for the Throat one, that's Jaguar in the picture. Now, he's not in the game technically, but they have it featured on the card. So that gives you a hint. Maybe they may come out with those later on. Hopefully they do. That'll make it more fun, because you'll have, it'll be this monster or that monster or whatever. So it'll make it more fun. Now, one of the things I found interesting as I was glancing through the instructions is that each of the monsters, because if you think about it, Godzilla is, he attacks the other monsters or whatever. Ghidorah, same thing. Mothra isn't like the others. She's more of a defensive monster. She doesn't really attack the other monsters, more so defends against them. They've actually worked out her powers on her cards to be more defensive, although it still works out in the game that she can win even though she's more defensive. It actually, they did their homework. They really, looked into these monsters, what they were about. In Mothra's case, yes, she's more of a defensive monster. And that actually, is kind of cool that they went through that trouble to really think this through, really find out about the monsters, and then work out their characters and stuff in the game to fit that. Now, also I noticed with the attacks and things, there's a range of stuff, not just from the Showa era. There's other stuff. For example, with Mothra, she has the antenna beams. That's not something that showed up until later on. That wasn't in the Showa era. So they use, depending on the monster, they'll use stuff from all their whole history. Now, somebody like Megalon, he doesn't have a whole history. He only had one film. So they have to kind of work off of that. But then the other ones, they used their whole history as far as their attacks and things they've done over the course of their history in the game, which is, shows that they really did their homework on this. And I have to say, even though I'm not a game person, it seems really interesting that they went through all this trouble with this game and really deciphered stuff. So with that said, I think this game looks like it's a really cool game. Seems like it would be fun, especially if you're a gamer. You're going to enjoy it. Plus, you get sort of many little collectibles out of it, too. With the characters and stuff. And I mean, even if you didn't play it, just have little buildings and stuff, on a little display somewhere. It kind of look cool. So, with that said, hopefully this does well. Now, for the case of the release of it, just so everybody knows, this will be hitting Target apparently on June 21st. Now, it will be available elsewhere apparently after that. So it may be Target exclusive first and then hitting other stores down the line. Just so you know. Now, we also will be giving away one of these jobs. So if you're interested in the game, we're going to be posting it in the near future after this video gets posted. We will be posting that contest too, so you can win one of these. So if you're interested in gaming, keep an eye out for that. So I want to thank everybody for watching, and I'll see you soon with another review. Thank you.